Hi guys, welcome to the UK. Just small introduction to myself. My name's Louis. I live in the southwest UK near Bristol. I'm 56. I'm going to be 57 in July. And obviously I'm a massive Elvis fan since I was a very small child. And I just love to share anything about Elvis because I feel that Elvis in my life helped me from a child. So it all comes from the heart, and I try and be very honest and give honest views on Elvis. And they're not always really, how can I say it? I try to be, I'll say the good and the bad. Even though I love Elvis, I don't like making any negative videos about Elvis, but sometimes the videos can be negative, but seen from a positive point of view. So please never think that I'm trying to do videos to make Elvis look bad. I would never do that, but I try and be honest. I'm not one of these massive Priscilla Presley fans, but I'm also not a Priscilla Presley hater. So again, I try and give an honest point of view on Priscilla as well, because I know you guys out there are very passionate about Priscilla Presley, on your views about her, and also Colonel Tom Parker. And I do understand all points of view. So today's topic, it's happy birthday, Gladys Presley. And I just thought I'd just sit here and talk to you about Gladys Presley, but also learn as I go, because I do know a few things about Gladys, but I don't know enough. And I thought instead of spending hours researching it and making a video, I thought what I would do, I'd do a live so I can share this with my subscribers or any new people that want to join in. And if anyone's watching, hi guys, but I know that many of you are in America and you're all asleep or you're all just waking up. So I'm not expecting many people to join this live. I know many of you will watch it the next day. Anyway, so it's Gladys Presley's birthday. We all know Elvis worshipped Gladys and they were extremely close. They had a very close bond. And I don't think Elvis was ever the same again after she passed away. And he had rushed to the hospital to be by her bedside during his army. It's his time serving in the US Army in Germany. And we've all seen the pictures of them sat on the doorstep with his father, Vernon, and it's heartbreaking. And Elvis just was uncontrollably crying for days and days. And not that many people know that after she had passed, Elvis would not let anyone touch her bedroom at Graceland for quite a few years. I think in 1962, they then decided to just pack everything away and wrap everything that belonged to her in 1962 old newspapers, which is why we know that was when Elvis had packed all her things away in her bedroom. Anyway, I'm just going to try and do this with you. I've got me coffee, so I've got a little while. The kids are out, the wife is at work, the kids are at school. And I just thought I'd go through the basics first. So let's look at when she died. So actually, no, I'll say let's go by when she was born first. So Gladys Love Smith was born on April the 25th, 1912, and in Pontotoc County, Mississippi, 15 miles outside of Tupelo. She was one of 9 children. I didn't know that. Did you know she was one of 9 children? And it says here, just a quick little thing. She loved to play basketball and dance and listen to music. So I wonder if that had an influence. I know that there are some recordings of her singing No Place Like Home with Elvis, and you can find that on YouTube. And I'm going to put a video together about Gladys, and I think I'm going to include a few interviews of her. Like, obviously, when Elvis first became famous, everyone wanted to interview Vernon and Gladys, I know there was the big, massive fairground show that they attended for Elvis Presley, I think in Mississippi, Tupelo, and they get interviewed there. But they've been interviewed a few times, and we know we've seen all the old footage of her driving around Graceland in the pink Cadillac, and them snow fighting. I think most Elvis fans have seen Gladys making snowballs and all the stuff, all the classic stuff that we've all seen many times. And obviously, they were extremely proud of Elvis. So you see many pictures of them stood there holding pictures up of Elvis. Let me just see if I can just show you a couple. So obviously this is them as a young couple. And Elvis is, I don't know, maybe 9, 10 there. You tell me, guys. I think she was a beautiful woman. This obviously, they would sing regularly together, and he loved singing gospel with his parents. This is them just looking very proud. I know you've seen all these before, but I only found this picture today. It's quite a rare picture that might have been, I think it has been colorized. It shows Gladys in the background, Elvis looking very cool, and that must be the pink Cadillac that he bought her. That's one of the first things Elvis did when he had money. He bought his mother that car, and it's beautiful, and it's still around today, and I think it's on show in Graceland. And it stood outside Graceland for many years. And she never had a driver's license. So, and then I found an interview that's got many little clips of Elvis talking about his mum, which I'm going to post in my video, and some nice pictures. So let's go back. Right, so we've mentioned when she was born. Let's have a look. I'm going to look about, I want to look into when she died and what caused her death. So let's have a look. So she passed away age 46, August the 14th, 1958. And way too young, 46. And obviously we know Elvis was serving in Germany, and as soon as he heard that she was unwell, I think they were traveling home on a train, I think, and she had become unwell, and then the decision was made to rush her to hospital, and she'd been in hospital for a little while. I think as things got worse and it got serious, Elvis found out, obviously, and he caused a bit of a scene because they weren't going to let him go at first. But he demanded that they let him take leave and go and sit with her. And he did manage to rest, I think, from memory, he rushed to her bedside and sat with her, hoping she was going to get better. And I think he went off for a sleep and a rest. And then during that time, she passed. And then I think Vernon phoned Elvis and said she's passed. And so he did sit by her bedside for quite a few hours, but not at the time of death. So, which I think is very sad. Obviously, for Elvis, life without his mother was unbearable. And I think on and off, right until the day Elvis passed, he couldn't bear that he'd lost his mum so young. They were obviously very, very close when he was small. But let's just keep reading some more bits. I found some very interesting things, actually. So obviously we know I keep saying obviously. Stop saying obviously. So I'll read this. In August 1958, Elvis Presley's mother became ill. Elvis was serving in the US Army at the time and was stationed in Germany. He quickly went home to see her and thankfully arrived just in time. On August the 14th, 1958, Gladys Presley died, age 46. The cause of death was heart attack, and it was later discovered that one of the contributing factors was liver failure due to alcohol poisoning. And there's a lot of talk about this, that she had a serious drink problem. After Elvis had gone to the army, we all know that she didn't want Elvis to go to Germany and to join the army. Now, do I know whether or not she was drinking before the army? I don't know. And then Elvis, it says here, Elvis Presley later said she was always my best girl. And I know that they had nicknames for each other. Elvis was inconsolable at the funeral and could barely walk after burying her. His close friends have said how he changed after Gladys' death and never really got over it. I agree with that. There was always this emptiness, this loneliness, which coincidentally in the video I did yesterday, a 1973 video when Elvis was being interviewed for the live by satellite around the world show that was watched by up to 1 billion people. In that interview, he comes across quite sad and quite lonely. And I sometimes think, is this still the remnants of missing his mother? So let's just keep listening to some of these. I'm not listening, reading. Let's have a look. Elvis, let's have a look. Yeah, so it basically says here that Gladys was never really happy that Elvis became so famous so fast, and thought it had changed him, and thought she preferred when they had a simple life and when they were poor. And she was seen at first feeding the chickens outside Graceland and doing her washing outside Graceland because it's what she had always done. And then when people had started saying to her, you shouldn't really do that, it doesn't look good, she just would say, oh, I just wish I was poor again. She just wanted to feed her chickens and wash her clothes in the way she'd spent her whole life. Don't forget, she grew up very poor. And I think she worked on the cotton farms. And one of the things I heard was that when Elvis was a baby, she would wrap him in a sheet and gently drag him along with her while she picked the cotton in the fields. Isn't that sweet? So, yeah, there we go. It says it here. Gladys did her laundry outdoors. Elvis's team asked her to stop feeding the chickens on the lawn. That is cute, though, isn't it? And then she says, I wish I was poor again. I really do. She apparently said this to a friend. Growing depressed, Gladys started to drink more alcohol and take diet pills. And I heard about these diet pills in 1958. They must have been very toxic and seriously bad for you, and probably caused some serious liver damage. Even now in 2024, I don't recommend diet pills. I think they're dangerous. So in 1958, it says she developed hepatitis, and I've heard about the hepatitis. Let's have a look. Now, I saw on one of the things I watching these different interviews on YouTube, and I didn't know this, but they say that Elvis's mother actually had a third child. Obviously, we know about Elvis and his twin, Jesse, and she was going to call the child Franklin, and it was miscarried in 1942. And I think Elvis was just a small boy when this happened. So I only found that out today. Did you know that, guys? Gladys nearly had a third child. So it says here, she was born 25th of April, 1912. Her early life couldn't have been more difficult from the riches her son would provide her in the future. She was the daughter of a cotton farmer in the 1930s. And she met Vernon Presley at church. I mean, I think this was very common in the 1930s. The socializing happened at church. She was 4 years older than him, and Vernon was 17, and thus underage at the time. They lived about their ages They lied about their ages in order to get married in 1933, and I'd heard this. Gladys soon became pregnant and she gave birth on January the 8th, 1935. However, tragedy occurred during the birth of Gladys had twins, but the first boy, Jesse Garon Presley, was stillborn. The second, Elvis Presley, survived. Obviously, we know that. So you imagine the trauma of that. And I've read in detail everything that happened on the day of the birth of the twins. And it's so sad. Obviously, he was born in the house in Tupelo, in Mississippi, Tupelo. And just all of the circumstances are just, I mean, if she had been from a wealthy family, I don't think the other twin would have died. Do you think? So it's just so sad. And they say that Jesse Garon is actually buried in an unmarked grave. Again, I'm still learning about these kinds of things. So I just think the closeness that Elvis had with Gladys was so unique. I don't think, I know that we all love our kids. I have 6 children and I worship my kids, but I think their closeness, because Vernon Presley went to prison because of check fraud. So Elvis was left with his mum a lot, and they lived in such a small home and they had to share a bed right into his teenage years. I think the sort of bond they had was much closer than normal. Some people might say too close, but I don't agree. I think it was very special. The last thing Elvis expected was that his mum was going to die when he was so young. Actually, how old was he? Was he 21? I'll just type it here. How old was Elvis when his mum died? When let's have a look. His mum died. I'm guessing 20, maybe. Let's go. Let's see if it's going to let me know. Well, actually, we can work it out. If she died in, let's have a look, 1958. So, yeah, that tells me he was born in 1935. My maths are so bad. So, 1958. So, isn't he about 23? Yes, 23, I would say. I think he left the army at 25. Am I right? Probably not. So he never would have expected that she was going to pass away. It's such a shame. And I do wish that she had looked after her health much more. I mean, she wouldn't have known about the diet pills, would she? Because she probably just thought she was taking something that was good for her. And I don't think people truly understood medication in those days. And did people even know that alcohol was bad for them and cigarette smoking was bad for them? They probably did, but not so much like we do in the more modern world. So anyway, happy birthday to Gladys. So I wanted to just briefly talk about the video I made yesterday. I'll just show it you because it had quite a nice reaction. It's had a lot of views. So let me just look at it. It's had, I think, 700 to 800 views, which is much more than I was expecting for a wide, because you got the little short videos that get loads of views, but the wides don't tend to get a lot of views. But this one has had 777 views. Let me just see if I can. Let's just. So let me just make it big for you guys. So I named it Elvis Presley, Something Was Wrong, and it's set in 1973, and it's, even though it's an interview about his Sky satellite live by satellite performance he was about to do, so we all know this, don't we? Let's go that way. We all know about this, and I initially was just going to do an interview about how amazing it was that this was basically the first around the world broadcast, and it was a pioneering thing that Elvis had achieved. There he is there. So let's go bigger. And I was just going to boast about it and say how amazing it was. And we know that during the concert was amazing, but he did move a lot less. He was a lot more sluggish. He still looked great, and he had slimmed down, and the clothing he was wearing, and his voice was beautiful. But I personally think that in that live satellite broadcast, you can tell that he's not right. So when I started watching the interview and listening to it and seeing that Elvis just looked slumped in his chair, I don't know if any of you guys have watched my video I posted yesterday. I just felt so sorry for him. I was like, I know he looked really smart, and when he's being asked questions, he's a perfect gentleman, and he answers those questions in a real respectful, polite way, and he's completely with it in the way of he gives great answers. But I would say that he looked unwell. He looked really tired, really overworked. His eye contact isn't right. He's like very uncomfortable, itching his face and rubbing, and he doesn't look like he's sat in a chair. He's slumped in his chair, and when I could see that interview, for me, that interview was quite upsetting. I felt sorry for Elvis, and I'd never really analysed it in that way before. I always used to watch that interview and think, oh, great, Elvis did amazing, you know, around the world satellite. But no, I then took a different view of that concert, that interview, that performance, that in 1973, and I realised that Elvis had already become quite unwell. And I'm not talking about his medical problems, because we know he had many, you know, medical problems, like with his colon and just many other things, you know, glaucoma. And this. I'm going to do a list of all his medical conditions, because he had many. He definitely needed a lot of painkillers. But my point is, I could see in 1973, there had been a massive change from 72 to 73. Elvis had become much more unwell, much more. And I really noticed it, because you watch the early Las Vegas concerts in 71, 72. He really looks amazing and fit and trim and lively and sparky and funny and energetic and loads of fun and charm and charisma, and he's being funny. But then you look at that 73 interview, and I'm not trying to belittle Elvis. I'm trying to say that I think in late 72 and going into 1973, whatever he was doing, not just, there was probably many things. The main thing, the prescribed medication, but also his diet. Because I heard that to lose weight for that 1973 live performance around the world, that he was only on 500 calories a day. And he was, I think, he wasn't even eating. He was drinking vitamins, I'm sure. You tell me, guys. He had completely changed his diet. He had a system of drinking vitamins, like, which I'm guessing was mainly fruit, just really mixed up so he can drink it to lose weight. And this system, whatever the system was he was using, did help him lose weight very quickly, but it must have made him poorly. Couldn't have been good for his body. And you know, we need the goodness in our diet to keep us healthy. And I don't think when he would go on to these, I know he also would exercise a lot as well. He really wanted to look right in 73. It really mattered to him. And we know that when he got to 75, 76, and the weight starts showing, you could tell by 77, I mean, he wasn't able to keep his weight down, and the prescribed medication had just gone too far. So in the end, that interview, instead of me talking about the satellite performance, how amazing it was almost all of that video I posted yesterday was about, I finally can see that he started to get very unwell from I think late 72 onwards until the day he died. So it just makes me wonder what happened to Elvis to make him go from 68, 69, 70, 71, having the best, amazing years that even paralleled his rise in 55, 56, 57, 58. They were both massive peaks. Now, what happened? Was it the divorce? Because I think they divorced in 73. But at the same time, I'm like, well, he was happy with Linda Thompson. Is it Thompson or Thomas? It's obvious that by the time he met Ginger Alden, he just was not happy, and everything was going wrong. And the last couple of years of him being with Linda Thompson, he was in a bad place. And she clearly says, I left him because I didn't want to be his nurse. And that she had to revive him a few times. And they were all worried that he would fall asleep whilst eating. So they were all worried that he would choke on his food and they would have to revive him or clear his throat. And there's so many factors why Elvis had become very unwell. I know that we all know that he was searching for a purpose. He felt there should be there was a reason why he had been given his looks and his talent, and he was trying to work that out with intensive book reading, and he was into everything, trying to find out the meaning of life and all the rest of it. But we also know that his relationships have become all very complicated, including with his ex, Priscilla. And then you have things getting complicated with the Memphis Mafia. We also know that there are very serious money problems. And Vernon was extremely worried about the way Elvis was spending. Obviously, he wasn't earning the same kind of money, so he was compulsively overworking and doing way too many concerts, and sometimes 3 shows a day. And don't forget, through the 60s, when he was making all the movies, he was doing sometimes 3 movies a year. It was either 2 or 3 movies a year he would make. And this was right until 1969. Even 69, he made 3. So you've got this person that is compulsively working because he knows he's got to pay the bills. And then you've got this underlying feeling where he's always felt a loss of his mother. And then you've got this underlying feeling where he couldn't accept that Priscilla had left him and had moved on. And he found the whole thing, because it was Mike Stone, extremely embarrassing. And we know the story that he wanted to hurt Mike Stone, didn't we? So as an Elvis fan, I have to say, my heart yearns for Elvis. Those last 3 years, I would say 4 years, it's almost like Elvis has become a different person. He wasn't the Elvis that we really fell in love with. This really intelligent, obviously good looking and talented. But you listen to an interview of Elvis in 55, 56, and I'm telling you now, you obviously have your Elvis fans. You know, I'm telling you how to suck eggs, but we have got a very excited person who loved the fact that he had become famous and was proud of his talent and loved traveling and performing, and just everything was exciting. And I think Elvis even enjoyed his 18 months in the army as well. He made a lot of good friends. Obviously, he met Priscilla, but I think even through that period, and then you see him coming back on the train in 1960, getting ready for the Frank Sinatra special, and Nancy Sinatra had met him when he was discharged. And you see all the fans all along the route, all waiting to cheer Elvis as he heads for Miami to do the Frank Sinatra special. And that Elvis, you can see Elvis through the 50s. Yes, he had some difficult times because the older population in the 1950s had it in for him and thought that he was bad for the teenagers and was a delinquent. And obviously, we know about the filming him from the waist down. But if you really look at Elvis's life, he had a fantastic time all through the 50s, all through the 60s. He initially, when he started doing these movies, obviously I think he made 1 movie in 56, maybe 2 movies in 57. And I think after the army, he made GI Blues. So that would have been 1960, after the Frank Sinatra special, which was a massive success. Then if you look at the records, after 62, he was more or less making 3 movies a year. And my favorite is King Creole. I always say that to everyone. But you've got a workaholic. You've got Elvis Presley, who we all see him as a person that is loving life and having the time of his life and getting extremely wealthy and buying big houses, etc. And how generous he is with everyone, and how generous he is charity-wise and with his family and with his staff. But sometimes we all forget this Elvis Presley was working extremely hard, much harder than the average person. He was definitely a workaholic. And when he started making those two, three movies a year all the way through the 60s, which I think at first he loved making and he really enjoyed it at first. But eventually he becomes weary of the films and gets fed up with making them because the scripts are a joke and the storylines are pathetic, and he just got fed up with it. So then you get a very fed up Elvis, I think, in the mid-60s, which then leads on to the 68 special, which to me, his bad patch was around 65 to 68. The 68 special, as we all know, completely turned his life around. And for me, the 68 special, If I Can Dream, was the highlight of his whole career. That one song really stands out for me. And then he then had this massive, phenomenal success in Las Vegas, which was another comeback in 69, 70, and at the Hilton. And he absolutely loved that as well. And all the celebrities were coming to see him. We know he eventually makes very good friends with many more celebrities. Tom Jones and Sammy Davis Jr. and Cary Grant was there. Just all the big cheeses were loving to watch Elvis. But then, as we know, as we get into 72, Elvis is fed up. He's doing too many concerts. He's got serious problems with his health. I think his health problems have become out of control. He's trying to medicate them, but he's also trying to keep himself awake, put himself to sleep with the medication, and try and soothe the pains. And there is just a horrible 3 to 4 years. But then if you listen to Ginger Alden's interviews when she was with him for those 8 months, obviously we know she found him dead, but you listen to the interviews, she says, and obviously they had a holiday, Dr. Nick went on that holiday, I think, but she says Elvis had been losing weight and getting ready. He was going to go off to perform his first concert the day after he died. And she said Elvis was in a good place and was looking for someone at the door. I'm just going to get the postman. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. So I actually found that video quite upsetting. So it's made me want to try and do some more uplifting videos. But the reason I wanted to do one with Gladys Presley and do this live about Gladys Presley is because I found out it was her birthday today. So the other thing I did today was I finished off my series of Elvis, A Star Is Born. I'd already made this video a few weeks ago, but then I wanted to break it down into sections and do some editing. So I posted part 1, part 2, and today I've posted part 3, which let's have a look. Let's just find it. Obviously, the fact that he eventually had to turn down the role of A Star Is Born from Barbara Streisand, which I think was a massive mistake. I'd also found out that he'd been offered many other roles like Midnight Cowboy. Someone even said West Side Story, but I don't think that's true. And he was offered some films with John Wayne as well. I just wish he had taken these opportunities. And so let's just have a look at the latest. The latest Star Is Born. That's number 3. Let's have a look. I might not have uploaded it yet. Let's have a look. I think I've uploaded it as a short, not a wide. So let's just turn it up. So, I don't think we'll ever know the real reason why Elvis turned down this role. And he went on to be offered many very good roles, one of them being Midnight Cowboy. And I really do believe Elvis had it in him to be a successful dramatic actor and even to win Oscar awards. He just never was given the opportunity to really dig down deep and be the actor that he truly wanted to be and knew he could be. But that's just how it turned out, and that's history. Thanks, guys. Hope you found this interesting. Well, I would change one thing. On that. I think my wife might have just come home. But I would change one thing on that. He was given the opportunities. He never took them. And whether that was Colonel Tom Parker's fault, or whether it was Elvis's fault, who knows? Maybe Elvis didn't feel he was up to it because he was so unwell, and he really did need to get his health back if he was going to start making films like A Star Is Born. And I just think, if you look at early interviews, Elvis really, really wanted to be a very decent dramatic actor and really be taken seriously and have credibility. And he really did put the work in as well at first. He really wanted to learn, yeah? I'm gutted for him that it just never came about. But I know that, we all see him as this extremely talented singer and a beautiful man that could move like no other. But no, he could have been the best actor. He could have been up there with the greats if he just took those roles. And I do think his health got in the way of taking those roles. So I'm gutted for Elvis, to be honest with you. And what do you think, guys? Anyway, please let me know your feelings, how you feel. Let me just... I might have to just pause it and just see what my wife... I don't even know if you can pause a live stream. I've never done it before. No, she's rushing. I can hear her rushing around trying to get stuff. So, anyway, so what do you think, guys, I should do my video about next? And I've been sort of thinking about, I want to try and tackle some new subjects to do with Elvis. I'm going to do some more about the movies. I might do a review on King Creole because it's my favourite film. I keep telling everyone it's my favourite film. So I'm thinking I might do a review on it, do little clips and just give my opinion. I'm going to do the Gladys one. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do that today, but I want to. I've done quite a lot of reading about Gladys with you guys. And so I think that's it. So I think I'm going to go now. I appreciate anyone that watches this when you wake up. And I think Gladys was lovely. I think she was a beautiful mother. And it was so sad that she passed at 46. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Rora.